Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we are delving into Matthew chapter 5 for queer reading, and I am going to go right ahead and get started. The Sermon on the Mount. One day, as he saw the crowds gathering, Jesus went up on the mountainside and sat down. His disciples gathered around him, and he began to teach to them. The Beatitudes. God blesses those who are poor and realize their need for them. For the kingdom of heaven is theirs. God blesses those who mourn, for they will be comforted. God blesses those who are humble, for they will inherit the whole earth. God blesses those who hunger and thirst for justice, for they will be satisfied. God blesses those who are merciful, for they will be shown mercy. God blesses those whose hearts are pure, for they will see God. God blesses those who work for peace, for they will be called the children of God. God blesses those who are persecuted for doing right, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. God blesses you when people mock you and persecute you, and lie about you and say all sorts of evil things against you because you are my followers. Be happy about it. Be very glad, for a great reward awaits you in heaven. And remember, the ancient prophets were persecuted in the same way. Teaching about salt and light. You are the salt of the earth, but what good is it if salt has lost its flavor? Can you make it salty again? It will be thrown out and trampled underfoot as worthless. You are the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and then puts it under a basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see, so that everyone will praise your heavenly Father. Teaching about the law. Don't misunderstand why I have come. I did not come to abolish the law of Moses or the writings of the prophets. No, I came to accomplish their purpose. I tell you the truth, until heaven and earth disappear, not even the smallest detail of God's law will disappear until its purpose is achieved. So if you ignore the least commandment and teach others to do the same, you will be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But anyone who obeys God's laws and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. But I warn you, unless your righteousness is better than the righteousness of the teachers of religious law and the Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Teaching about anger. You have heard that our ancestors were told, "You must not murder." If you commit murder, you are subject to judgment. But I say, if you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. If you call someone an idiot, you are in danger of being brought before the court, and if you curse someone, you are in danger of the fires of hell. So if you are presenting a sacrifice at the altar in the temple and you suddenly remember that someone has something against you, leave your sacrifice there at the altar. Go and be reconciled to that person. Then come and offer your sacrifice to God. When you are on the way to court with your adversary, settle your differences quickly. Otherwise, your accuser may hand you over to the judge, who will hand you over to an officer, and you will be thrown into prison. And if that happens, you surely won't be free again until you have paid the last penny. Teaching about adultery. You have heard the commandment that says, "You must not commit adultery." But I say anyone who even looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. So if your eye, even your good eye, causes you to lust, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your hand, even your stronger hand, causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. Teaching about divorce. You have heard the law that says a man can divorce his wife by merely giving her a written notice of divorce. But I say that a man who divorces his wife, unless she has been unfaithful, causes her to commit adultery. And anyone who marries a divorced woman also commits adultery. Teaching about vows. You have also heard that our ancestors were told, "You must not break your vows. You must carry out the vows you make to the Lord." But I say, do not make any vows. Do not say by heaven, because heaven is God's throne. And do not say by earth, because the earth is his footstool. Do not say, by Jerusalem, for Jerusalem is the city of the great king. Do not even say, by my head, for you can't turn one hair white or black. Just say a simple yes, I will, or no, I won't. Anything beyond this is from the evil one. Teaching about revenge. You have heard the law that says the punishment must match the injury, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say, do not resist an evil person. If someone slaps you on the right cheek, offer the other cheek also. If you are sued in court and your shirt is taken from you, give your coat too. If a soldier demands that you carry his gear for a mile, carry it 2 miles. Give to those who ask, and don't turn away from those who want to borrow. Teaching about love for enemies. You have heard the law that says, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say, love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. In that way you will be acting as true children of your Father in heaven. For he gives his sunlight to both the evil and the good, and he sends rain on the just and the unjust alike. If you love only those who love you, what reward will there be for that? Even corrupt tax collectors do that much. If you are kind only to your friends, how are you different from anyone else? Even pagans do that. But you are to be perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect. So, there was a lot in that chapter. Personally, the Sermon on the Mount is one of the most important chapters in the Bible for me. I feel like I've said that for the past 3 weeks, but honestly, this piece of the Bible was so transformative to me in a time where I really needed to hear those words. I think so many times in the Sermon on the Mount, it tells us who we are as children of God. And when I first heard this read aloud at my church, I was just in a place where I really needed to hear that I was loved and cared for unconditionally. Jesus talks about people being persecuted or people being mocked or lied about. And I think so often people in the queer community who have been in Christian communities as well have felt this way. I felt this way. I think it's really difficult to thrive around people who believe that your identity is a choice, or that you are walking down a path of sin, or that you're going to hell. It's so difficult. But just knowing that there's a Father that loves you unconditionally as you are because he created you that way is so powerful. Honestly, a lot of this chapter, I think about how I had based my identity so often on the people in my community and what they thought of me. I was so afraid of being trans and of coming out to people because I was afraid that they would walk away or they would judge me. And I was equating that judgment or that loss to judgment from God. And those two things are so different. A lot of this, I think about how people in my church are just that. They're just people. And as a young person coming out, that's so hard to grapple with. That like these people that you've looked up to your entire life, they're just human too. They are reading this book just like you're reading it, and they're trying to analyze it, and they've grown up a certain way, and they've maybe not thought about certain things. And I think for me, it's been so transformative to remember that they're people and they're trying to find their way too. I used to harbor a lot of anger towards people in the church and my pastors and people like that. And one thing that teaching about love for enemies made me think about was one time our pastor said something. He said, don't let your anger towards a person make you miss out on hearing the message, which I've really carried with me through church, through moving, through finding new community. I don't want to let my anger towards a person allow me to miss out on what they're telling me, because what they're telling me could be from God. I don't want to shut myself down from their ideas just because one of their ideas is incorrect. like, again, we are all called to be children of God, and we all make mistakes. So that quick forgiveness is what we're called to as Christians. Even, I know that is so hard to do. But like, it helps me to remember that we are all people. And in the end, we're not going to be the ones held accountable for judging each other either. And to end, I just wanted to touch on the last line when he says, "But you are to be perfect even as your Father in heaven is perfect." I think the first time I read that, it really freaked me out because holy shit, God wants me to be perfect? Like, I can't even hold myself to that standard. I don't know how to do that. Like, how is anyone perfect? Like, of course, I still get angry and I still judge people and I still make assumptions too fast and all that stuff. But what he's really saying here is that he created you perfect. Like Jesus created all that you are. So you're already perfect. It's not something you need to work towards, you need to gain, or you need to complete X, Y, and Z to gain his love and be like this perfect human. No one's perfect. And no one knows that more than Jesus. But he created us in his image and he is perfect. So in turn, we are perfect. So we need to live our lives in that light. And I think that adds a lot to our self-confidence and our ability to carry ourselves. Like, how different would you carry yourself if you really believed that you were a perfect creation of God, that you were loved by the Father unconditionally and forever and ever? I try to think of that when I'm like grappling with anxiety or I'm in like a downward spiral. I just think like, he created me, and what I'm going through is going to pass because I was meant to be here and do this. I struggle to justify my identity and find validation and all of these things, but in the end, like, he created me perfect, and that's the end of the story. That's it. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time.